Hello and welcome to the channel. So in today's video we'll be discussing what asset classes I've invested in. So let's dive straight into it. So I've invested in property, index funds, commodities, gold. I've also invested in cryptocurrency as well, but firstly I'll discuss why I've invested in property. So I invested in property mainly because that was something that was instilled in me from a very young age. So, for example, my grandfather was a property developer, my father was a developer as well. So it's something that I pretty much jumped on to at a very young age. Bought my first property at the age of 24, and then I just kept buying after that. I was unaware of index funds and shares at the time. I was always told that shares was gambling, so I didn't actually invest in shares, and I was completely oblivious to index funds. So yeah, originally my journey started with property, and it was only until COVID that I started investing in index funds and shares, and I started to dabble into cryptocurrency and started to buy some commodities. So the commodities that I own are livestock and cattle off the trading platforms. I also own a bit of corn, a bit of oil, um, and in terms of the cryptocurrencies, I own the obvious Bitcoin and various other altcoins. I own a bit of Ethereum. I also own various index funds, but the majority of my funds are in a global all cap index tracker, as well as the Life Strategy 100 and in the US equity as well. So that's my main core portfolio. So what I'm trying to do at the moment is I'm trying to shift my sort of overall wealth from property into index funds, and the reason why is because the thing with property is it's not liquid. You have a lot of problems with property as well. I know a lot of property gurus online seem to emphasize that you can become financially free in such a short period of time, but the reality is that when you're managing a property and you own it, there's a whole list of problems that you get. One is purchasing a property is not easy. You need a large deposit. You also need to go through a whole pile of paperwork, and then once you own the property and you're renting it, then you've got issues in relation to maintenance, void periods. I've currently got a property at the moment where the tenants stopped paying rent. I've got another property at the moment that's currently on the lettings market, but for some reason it's taken a long time to let. I suspect it's mainly because of the letting agent. Um, so yeah, there's a whole list of problems with property, but once it gets going, property is a very good asset class. Um, so I would be holding on to them, but I am shifting towards index funds. The good thing about index funds is it tracks the market. Um, Although you may get dips in the market, over the long term you do get an average figure. Whereas with the property, you may get a horrible tenant that may not pay your rent. You're going through the eviction process for about 6 months or so. You may not get any income whatsoever, and then on top of that, you'll have to pay for the eviction process. So you're actually at a loss, and a lot of people don't take that on board. So there are a lot of plus and negatives with property, as well as with every other asset class. Now, I've already discussed property. I've also invested in gold and precious metals. I haven't invested that much into silver, palladium, and platinum, and the reason why I've not done that is because you pay VAT on the purchase in the UK, and that eats into the profits. So, frankly, if you're paying VAT and then you're paying storage, there's an awful lot of fees attached to it, and the historical data doesn't look good either. Although silver is at a fairly low rate compared to the historic data, for me, it's not really a lucrative investment. So although I've invested in gold and I'm still invested in gold, most of my gold investments are online. I don't hold any physical gold as of yet, but it's something I'm leaning towards later on in the future. But I need to get my storage sorted before I actually do that. Um, and the other thing that I've invested quite a bit in is cryptocurrency, but the problem with that is that's at an all-time low. Of all my investments, that's taken the most hit. And there's a reason why they say it's the high risk asset class and you should only invest 5%, between 1 and 5% according to experts. And now I know the reason why, because of the overall portfolio. I'm down by about 90% overall. So that's a massive hit. Now, I'm young enough to actually take the hits at this stage, so it's one of those where I could still potentially ride out the storm. Whereas those that are probably in the retirement age have got, they're probably scratching the head because they're retiring in a couple of years. So it's one of those where I could afford to take the hits, but I'm kind of glad that most of my money's in real estate at the moment. It's in property. As I mentioned, I only recently started to dabble in index funds. Had I known earlier about index funds, I would have probably invested in that because it's a very good entry level, and over the long term, it's a good investment. If I was to start from the very beginning, after saving the odd 1,000, 2,000 here and there, I probably would invest in index funds and then gradually build towards a property. But I did it the complete wrong way around. I invested in property first, but I suppose it's based upon what I was taught from a very young age, and that's what I did. So yeah, that's the asset classes that I've got my investments in. I don't hold any bonds whatsoever. That's one thing. Second thing is I don't hold any sort of savings other than my emergency fund. I don't hold any cash at all. I may hold any cash in the odd fund here and there, mainly for platform fees and various other fees, but I don't really hold any spare cash at all. I hold an emergency fund, which is 6 months of my expenses, and that's it. Because I don't feel cash is an investment. Cash is a vehicle to use to buy investments for either an increase in value or to produce an income. That's the way I see it anyway. Everyone's got their own opinion, but that's the way I see it. But you do need a bit of spare cash just in case you have any issues. I know a lot of people will say, well, I don't hold cash because I can get a loan from the bank, or borrow money. But the reality is when the shit hits the fan, then the loans are not available either. It's like when COVID hit, a lot of the banks were removing a lot of their products. So it's one of those where you probably would struggle. You'd probably struggle to get a credit card when it does hit the fan. So that's something to bear in mind. That's the way I've done it anyway. So yeah, the main bulk of my money is in real estate. Then I've got quite a bit into index funds. I'm building that pot up at the moment. I've started to dabble a bit into gold and into cryptocurrencies. But the cryptocurrencies need a lot of work since it's hugely down. I'm looking to pound cost average into the market and build that back up again. So I hope you've enjoyed that one. So yeah, thank you for watching. Bye for now.